Hello, hello, hello. And on the tip of my tongue was another word. We'll tell you about it someday. Welcome to Over Coffee, our morning talk show on the Long Island Tabletop Streaming Network, where we talk games or just about anything. About it, we talk anything. I'm telling you, we talk about anything. Today is Wednesday, the 10th of February, in the year of the Apocalypse Plus 2021. And I'm Game Master Dave, and I'm here with my co-host John, and we would love your feedback. We'd love for you to chat with us. We'd love for you to listen to us while you are getting ready for work or in your car, or watch us later on Twitch or YouTube. Give us a like, give us a follow, and hey, what have you guys been up to? Did you play any games at all since Monday?
Not
No?
a lot. I actually was answering emails at work until like 10 o'clock last night.
Oh boy.
Actually, that's a lie. I was answering emails till 10:45.
Oh, that's a lot. That's a lot of emails.
Well, the meetings didn't end until 7.
Meetings for your regular job.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
played some
it's
I played some Dominions 5 last night, but that's been an ongoing campaign for a long time.
yeah, nobody cares about your Dominion.
Of course they don't. I know.
Hold on
John
one second.
John's getting his breakfast ready. He's
No, actually focusing on lunch, but
oh,
no, I haven't played anything new. I've been kind of like jumping back and forth between a couple of games. Actually, I did try over the weekend. I didn't really talk about it on Monday. I briefly tried Crusader Kings 3 because it
oh,
kind of, it came on Game Pass a couple of months ago, and I was like, yeah, let me give it a shot. And it's interesting. There's just so much to it,
yeah.
and I
'Cause
feel like it's got a tutorial, but the tutorial really just kind of defines everything. It doesn't really like say like here's what to do here, here's how to do this. It's like it's if the tutorial was too involved, it would be you'd probably just not pay attention to it because it'd be just too much. But if it's not involved enough, the game has a lot of rules, so it's very easy to kind of just like block half of it out when you're trying to focus on it.
well, three of my, let's say, top 10 favorite computer games are Stellaris, Hearts of Iron, and Europa Universalis, and all of those are made by the same company that made Crusader Kings. And like 10 people have told me I've got to try Crusader Kings. I've never played it. So cool. All right, and then we were talking a little bit about the impeachment that started yesterday, so I listened to the whole thing. So we were just having a little conversation before that. We got a few people watching us right now, which is cool. So if you guys have any feedback or input, please let us know.
I got a couple of things we can talk about after we cover the news. Just some stuff that we haven't really explored that's come about in the last couple of weeks. So
Okay.
if you wanted to go through the news real quick, I'll kind of mention some of the stuff that's been on my back burner.
Okay, and I've got a topic too. We don't have to talk about it today. It
Oh,
might be a 2-minute topic, might be a 20-minute topic. Rich already told me he doesn't like it, so it'll be a good topic then. It'll be a hot discussion.
Which topic don't I like again?
Exactly. You don't even remember the thing about money in a role playing game.
Yeah, I don't like it.
Yeah, exactly.
But okay, go ahead.
All right,
News.
so here's the news on tabletopgamingnews.com. We've got the great races on. This is very interesting. Somebody had an idea of let's do a racing game. Let's use the dice as the characters in the game. You roll the characters in order to like see how far you move or whatever in the race. I haven't played it. It's coming out. I think it's brand new.
it
It's a new
sounds like
board game.
Formula Day. It sounds
What?
like Formula Day. Have you played
Right.
that?
I was thinking, except that I think actually I'm not too sure exactly how it works, but the great race is on cubes of all type. Cubes, like the population instead of meeples or instead of cars. Cubes
Hmm.
of all type are looking to win the annual Cube Cup competition. But who will cross the finish line first? That's up to you to decide in Cubitos. Cubitos, a new board game available from AEG. So check that out. Could be interesting. We're, yeah. Then the next one from Tabletop Gaming News is Titanforge has long been known for their amazing models and extra bits. I'm not familiar with them. Maybe you guys are doing some terrain and stuff, but now they're looking to create their own minis game. It's called Grid Wars: Age of Cyberpunk. Now, the interesting thing about this game that I found, which is cool, is like once you buy the game, um, they give you a whole supply of 3D printable science fiction skirmish game pieces that you print yourself. And I think that they have a subscription, because that's the way a lot of games are going now. They got a subscription, and I think every month or so you get like a couple new characters you can 3D print. So I thought that was a really neat concept that they were trying to do with this game.
Yeah, that sounds like a cool idea, like a monthly subscription to models.
Yeah. So if you got a 3D printer, you're into board games, you got a 3D printer, now you can, combine the two into like a strategy miniature game. So
Well, I think it helps that I think 3D printers are becoming more and more common. Like I remember when they first came out, to the point where people could afford them. I mean, it's like every technology. It comes out, it's just affordable enough that somebody could own it, but not cheap enough that the average person is going to go out of their way. And then eventually it just becomes more and more accessible, or more and more people hear about it. And then, yeah, like I think like my cousin has like a 3D printer now. I don't know what necessarily if they use it on a daily basis, but the fact that they have one, is definitely like a sign of how much they've come.
yeah, and I don't know. I know Rich I think, plays some cyberpunk games. I don't know if that's something that he wants to look into. But Rich, do you have a 3D printer?
I do have a 3D printer.
Oh, cool. All right. What is it? From Dice Tower News, they have Square One is a new gaming system that brings board games into a portable console. So this is basically like it almost looks like a laptop. I'm sorry, it almost looks like a tablet you put in the middle of your table. Or I guess you can use any tablet and you just download the software. But Wizama, the brains behind Square One, successfully kickstarted this new console and is now linked to deal with Asmodee Digital to bring 3 of Asmodee's most successful games into Square One. This includes Ticket to Ride, Terraforming Mars, and a Game of Thrones board game digital edition. The games will support multiplayer capabilities so players can enjoy competitive matches with friends and family sitting around the same table. I thought that was this is I've seen tables with like the embedded video screen that you can put pieces on it and it will recognize, like touch screen, so you can put a piece down, it'll recognize either the piece or it will recognize at least that something is there. But this seems like a sort of a combination, a little bit more portable, and they hooked up with Asmodee for some big titles, so I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, I'm seeing that happen a lot. Like there's have either of you guys ever heard of, probably not, but have you heard of Arcade One Up? Are you familiar with that company at all?
No.
Arcade One Up is a recent company and a long string of manufacturers basically making accessible arcade games for the general public. Of like, we're going to release some titles, we're going to work on the licensing rights or whatever. And they recently started doing more and more stuff. Like they actually have they got the rights to do the Star Wars arcade games. So they're like a sit-down cabinet. They started doing pinball. Like they've been working with pinball developers to get the licensing rights to make, and it's all virtual. It's like it's basically a giant iPad with with a screen on it or whatever. But they also recently announced a board game version, and it's going to be a board game version that has several board games. I forget exactly what the titles are, but it's like your average run of the mill, like Monopoly, Sorry, stuff like that. And they might. Are you bringing the Switch up here? I can bring it up here. Yeah. Sorry. Sorry about that. But the point is, like, yeah, more and more companies have been getting into like digital games as a platform. It's just interesting because it's usually a lot of the same stuff. Like it's a lot of Asmodee. There's not really a whole lot of independent support, but I guess part of that could be licensing rights. Part of that could just be working with the actual manufacturers and whatnot.
Yeah. Anyway, I got.
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh no, that's fine. I got one last thing. For RPG Geek. For those of you that don't know, there's Board Game Geek is very popular, and people use it to track their board games. I do it. I track all the board games I play. It's a great resource. They have another thing called RPG Geek, so you can track the games that you play. There's a lot of resources on there for role-playing games and stuff like that. They have a thing on RPG Geek. They've had it for a couple years now. It's called Play by Forum. So basically, you join a game, you join a role-playing game, and I guess it's been really hot and popular during the pandemic, of course. but each game, a game master will say, "Hey, I want to play Mines of Phandelver for D&D," and say I could take 6 players, and 6 people can go to this play by forum on RPG Geek and sign up, and then you play by forum. It's like, instead of doing it by email, or instead of doing it on chat on Discord or something like that, you're just making forum posts in a particular thing. So I
Well,
thought that was interesting. So
it sounds like how we used to do like play by letter. Like that's something that I remember
yeah,
seeing
yeah,
about.
yeah. Yeah, exactly. Now they are adding some player initiatives and stuff like that, and they're trying to launch across a couple different domains and platforms. So that's the next thing that they are working on. But I guess I never got into that playing by via email or whatever. But I know some people do. So cool. That's all I got for the news.
Okay.
So
So
yeah,
I got a couple things, but Rich, is there anything you want to toss in before I start some of my stuff?
no, I just read the article on the impeachment, and there's a couple of points that are incredibly interesting. First of all, the charges, right? We all know what the charges are,
Yep.
John.
Being a
Insurrection.
jerk, being a smelly ding dong.
No.
While those would be acceptable answers, the official
Yeah,
charges
not
is
insurrection.
that he incited a riot
Right.
against the Capitol. A couple of things is that one, he's the first president to ever be impeached after the fact, and the question is, does this open the doors for people to go back and impeach other presidents now that they're out of office?
Right.
So that was interesting. That's just an aside. That's interesting, but I mean, I understand. Looks like the result of this impeachment, the only thing that will result from this impeachment is to prevent, is exactly what Dave was pointing out before. Is that if he loses, he will be prevented from running for any public office again. So that's really what this is about.
Right. I think that is that's the point, is that they want to get it done so that he can't run in 2024.
Right. They're what they're doing is they're removing an opponent.
Right.
They're
And
removing.
that's some of the Republicans' argument, is that this is
is simply to remove an opponent that could beat them.
Right. Exactly. That could win again and defeat Biden or whoever runs in 2024.
I mean, look how close it was to begin with. Yeah, absolutely.
And so, but of course, the Democrats are saying, there are consequences to actions, and and president's words matter. And if you're going to say what you say, then you need to accept responsibility for what happened.
If in fact that they can prove that his words were the exact cause of that insurrection. I mean, there was that LIRR guy that was arrested for taking part in that, and his statements and comments the day before pointed to the fact that he knew what he was going to be doing.
Right. I think we all know that he's not going to get impeached. It's just that they're just going through they need to go through the procedure
But they don't need to go through the procedure.
Well,
right? They had to fight. They had to fight and make deals, and I don't know what deals they made, because they had, I think it was something like 10 Republicans dissented to agree. I thought it was much more, but apparently I was wrong. And they need 17 to convict, but 10. It took them converting 10 to even get them to agree, and even then it was deadlocked at 50-50, and only because the vice president is Democratic did it go in the favor of the Democrats in this particular case. So to say that it was something they had to do doesn't sound like it. It sounds like they worked their butts off to get it done.
So look at it this way. Even if there are Republicans who agree that they don't want him back around again, nobody's going to make that public statement.
Right. No, I agree.
It's a political suicide. It's like, I'm going to anger all of my
Yes.
constituents who are in support of him,
Yes.
or I'm going to anger my colleagues for being like, well, I went against party lines, even if it's common sense to.
No,
So
I don't think. Here's the thing. I don't think, and I agree with you, John. I don't think anybody's standing on the ground that they're saying that saying that this impeachment is wrong because it's Donald Trump. They're saying this impeachment is wrong because they stand on the grounds that they don't think that they should, because they don't think that there's going to be a conviction on it, because the charges aren't the charges are abuse of power by inciting a riot. He didn't order the military to go and do something. He didn't actually order those people to do it. I think what needs to be looked at is, were these people already ready to go and do it? Because does it go back to, and this is funny because I was just having a conversation on something. Oh, go ahead, John. Go ahead. So does this go all the way back to the 80s where we said that heavy metal music incites people to do stupid things? Commit suicide or hurt someone or worship the devil, or do they all play in together? Right? Because those lyrics don't go away. And there are some bands out there that are incredibly popular, and they probably hold more words in the regular population than a president, who some people don't even listen to.
No, sorry, I thought you were done.
No, I'm done. I'm done. Go ahead.
The thing I was going to say is that I saw a video yesterday about some political people that I follow, and they were basically re-airing a CNN video with like one of those QAnon followers. And a great way to show what happened is Trump might not necessarily have, like, let's say, instigated things, but the online culture basically propelled people who'd be susceptible to kind of go in line with it to eat it all up. Now, Trump, I'm not saying that.
Yes,
that means,
I agree with that. 100%.
It's that legal gray area of Trump benefited from all the online stuff to basically purport himself, but by never having to actually get his hands dirty, he could legally say that he's clean from it. But if you listen to a lot of these people, they're like, well, I don't watch the news because the president says don't trust the news. So I just follow and the funny thing is, this person said it started with TikTok. People were sharing me QAnon TikTok videos, and then that led me to Facebook, and then that led me to YouTube, and then basically the algorithms picked up. Although I don't like the fact that people are blaming on algorithms. Like, if you're smart enough to know that you're being tricked by the algorithm, I don't know if that's a great defense to say, well, I was gullible enough to believe it, so I just kept eating more and more of it. You know what I mean?
Right.
But the point is that this person said, I legitimately thought that on Inauguration Day, the television was going to go black and the military was going to step in and arrest everybody, including all the Hollywood elites who were there. And I thought that Trump would then take president again once everything was back to normal. It was like, and I legitimately thought that was going to happen. So like, this woman's like, I was almost about to take my daughter out of school because I was worried that frenzied Democrats were going to like adopt her. And it's like, this is just a normal person who, extremely gullible and maybe not necessarily the smartest, like basically got picked up by all, like, that's the biggest argument. Trump didn't incite anything personally, but the question is how much is he responsible for creating an environment that other people capitalized, that became this self-perpetuating machine that enabled what happened to happen,
So what this does, actually, once again, we won't go after the root cause, right? We won't go after the root problem, right? As a country, we won't do that. And the truth is it's education and information. And these people obviously need it. And there's a whole group of people out there that need it, right? But people didn't believe the news because of Trump. The news had been going sensationalized for years. Since the 90s, it'd probably be sooner, but I recognized it in the 90s. The news was going sensationalized, and you had this opinion over here and this opinion over here. And while the opinions were great, but they manipulate you into thinking the way they're thinking, and they spin it, right? They spin it in their favor, and it's no longer news, right? Only like your local news is now more news than anything else. Like News 12. When I see News 12, I can sit there and watch that because I don't feel like those people there are trying to News 12, by the way, for anybody who's listening, our local news station. But I don't feel like those people are trying to pull one over on me.
But even those can be susceptible.
Yes.
Because larger news companies could buy out your local affiliates and then force them to run quote unquote opinions in certain ways.
No, you're absolutely right. You're right. I can't argue with that. And by no means am I trying to make excuses, right?
Well, a lot of the show, the video I was watching,
Mhm.
points a lot of the blame back at Facebook, and they're like, "How susceptible is Facebook and online media responsible for pretty much whatever happened in the last 4 years for enabling essentially disinformation to just spread like wildfire?" I mean, you could argue for freedom of speech and this and that, but like part of the reason why the insurrection happened is directly because of this woman said, I believe TikToks, I listen to then Facebook, and then the algorithms send out what's popular. They're not required to vet out what happens. I mean, now they're trying to keep their hands clean because something actually illegal happened, and they probably won't, but they could be held liable for well, you're responsible for damages because you allowed this stuff to kind of really exchange. But the point is that, I mean, that gets into the whole freedom of speech thing. But to be fair, if something is out there that's maybe not necessarily truthful, if it's not expressing opinion, is it considered harmful? And a lot of these online platforms, that's just unfortunately how it goes.
Yeah. So Zinar said it doesn't mean people on the other side, like Trump amongst others, don't take advantage of that new news delivery. There's a lot of you're absolutely right, Zinar, and by no means did I mean that it's not used by both, but the fact that news is a weapon is really the problem, right? You really need to separate these news agencies and let them be what they were started to be, right? Freedom of the press is very, very important. I think that people out there need to be educated, but they need to be able to trust that what they're reading or what they're hearing are good. Here's to your point, John. Here's something like on Long Island, you never hear anything bad about Cablevision on News 12 or in Newsday. Why? Because they're all owned by the same company, and that was what you were saying earlier. Yes, I agree. News needs to be news, not drama TV. And everybody takes advantage of it, and Trump did as well. So I'm not making that as an excuse. I'm saying, but that is the problem, and that's what needs to be solved. But here's an interesting take, right? And here's an interesting take on this. This is the impeachment trial is a very big gamble, and here's why. If they win, right? They win what they wanted to win. They've eliminated a potential opponent forever. Got it. I understand what the stakes are on that side. If they lose and they fail to impeach him, they have now done it twice and failed twice. And how much power does that give him in return? That's more scary than him actually running and losing again. Because I don't think he's ever going to win. The Republicans are not going to pick him up for their party anymore.
Right, he's too much of a liability.
Absolutely.
But he becomes a fantastic speaking point. He becomes, hey, look, I'm former President Trump. Look what they did to me. Look what they did. So now you have somebody on the Republican side who could be, let's say, not necessarily controversial, but who could be just as hard, right-wing stance, getting further and further away from the left just by painting it as.
Yeah. What it
take? Not to turn this into a political thing, but I feel like more often than not.
No, we just said we weren't going to shy away from these things, and I get. Look,
this way. Hold on, real quick before, because it's somewhat related. Right. I really don't like how anytime it always comes to bipartisanship and let's say unity, it's always in the terms of let's say, not even necessarily compromise, but concessions. They always say, what are you going to do to meet with us? And it's well, that means that you have to meet our demands rather than saying, here's what we're going to offer. You need to give us something on the table, too. More often than not, it's always what I'm trying to say is Republicans always point fingers at the Democrats as being too far left wing. Even when you have actual moderates there, an easy and cheap tactic is just, well, the socialist or It's the deranged left or whatever. So you have somebody like Trump who can play up that argument.
And it
then you
goes
have
the other way
somebody-
too, John.
What? No, I know it can go the other way too. Like, I know it can go the other
No,
way
not
too.
can. It does.
No, I get that. But what I'm saying is, you get a candidate 4 years from now who's going to be like, we cannot trust Democrats anymore with our country. We need strong Republicans, and we need to like get a party that's going to just basically run this country the way that it needs to be done. Otherwise, look at what they did to President Trump. You know, look at all the stuff that happened, all the stuff that could happen, how they could basically just choose to take your rights away, and we're not going to let that happen. And yeah, if Trump wins the impeachment case, they have a great argument for that of like, well, look at what they'll try to get away with if we allow them to basically have carte blanche, you know?
Yeah. Dave, what were you going to say?
What I was going to say was along the lines of strategy that you guys are talking about. I believe also the long-term strategy is for the Democrats. The long-term strategy is to get the Republican senators on record on whether they support the impeachment or not, and that is so that they can, use that against them in their next re-election campaign.
Yeah, but that doesn't work. I hate to say it, like, because look at what happened with Lindsey Graham. You know, they had little ammunition against Lindsey Graham that said, I'm saying one thing, and now that the situation's to my advantage, I'm going to go the other direction. And he still won because, unfortunately, party lines to a lot of people still matter. And it doesn't matter whether or not somebody is proven to be a hypocrite. You know, if that was the case, people would have thrown Mitch McConnell out of office years ago. As somebody who, like, I don't get me wrong, I don't fault Mitch for being like, I know what the people are going to vote for, regardless of whether, let's say, it's morally right or wrong. I'm going to play the numbers game. I'm going to play the polls, and I'm going to win. And he does. So anytime the Democrats say, oh, we want to get him on record saying that he did a bad thing, what does it matter? Because when they have the argument, they're going to say that, like, well, the Democrats are crazy. Or they're going to say, like, well, that doesn't matter because the situation.
Look.
But John, I completely agree with you that in most cases, it doesn't matter because the constituency for most of the senators is either so diehard Republican or so diehard Democrat that those seats will never, ever flip. But when we're talking about a small number of senators or even a relatively small number of Congress people that their districts or their states are close to somewhere in the middle in those campaigns, then I think it does matter. And really, it doesn't, the Democrats or the Republicans realize they're never going to get 100 senators of their own party. They just want to get just the majority. Same thing in the House. So if I can flip 10 seats in the House because I was able to say these 10 people voted so in this way in a particular thing, if I can flip 10 seats, that's significant.
So the thing is that what they do is they all have agendas. Zainar's right. They serve their own agendas. There are some out there that can serve their own agendas and their constituents, and there are some that just are purely after their constituents, and that's fine. And I think that a lot of the high profile ones, the problem is we see a lot of the high profile ones. There are probably many more politicians who aren't, and the high profile ones make all of them look bad. That's just the case. But we're talking about weaponizing. We weaponize everything, and as much as and you're right, John, it does go, the Republicans do point fingers, but I mean, look at that whole scary situation surrounding Brett Kavanaugh. Not for nothing, but they had someone come up and lie because they didn't want him in, and then washed their hands of it and left her out to dry.
Well, I don't know enough to comment on that one, but you're saying that the person that accused Brett Kavanaugh lied?
Yes.
Oh. Well,
that's why it dropped. She was paid. She was paid to lie. And then you notice that went away really quickly, right? Went away.
Well, I think what's interesting about Brett Kavanaugh is obviously people thought, he was installed by Trump and he's gonna vote the Trump way as Trump. It just appeared. I'm not saying it was, but it just appeared that Trump was excited about putting a lot of Supreme Court justices on, so that the court would bend towards his will. But Brett Kavanaugh voted on things that the Republicans claimed were against the Republicans. So that was interesting. So, but anyway.
That could be like short term. Like that's the problem with somebody who's appointed to something for life. Like I'm not saying like, oh, he's going to be a staunch Republican 100% of the time, but it's like it's a gamble when you want something, and it's like you have somebody who's basically privy to their own opinion, who's going to vote how they see fit. Now they might, in the long term, probably vote much more on the Republican line. But yeah, there might be individual issues where they're probably more moderate or maybe even more liberal. It just depends. The downside is that like you never know. So it's a 50-50 toss up. And the last Supreme Court that Trump got in, if a case comes up, it really comes down to now that the court's in a strong majority, how are they going to vote on issues that they previously did the other way around?
Well, anyway, it's 7:01. I'm gonna have to turn off in about 1 minute.
All right. So the point was, is this year we were not going to shy away from politics. However, and
I wanted to talk about Nintendo
and some of our opinions, aren't necessary. I mean, I consider ourselves all moderate since we all get along, and we try to when faced with new information, we are allowed to make changes to our opinions. And I want to just say that up front, because if we say something that one way and we're wrong, we're allowed to be wrong.
Right.
So.
And you're right. As long as the three of us, or even Doug, don't scream and yell and bicker and argue and rage quit, I think we'll be okay. And as long as the people watching and listening think that debate and the conversation is worth it, I think that's okay too. But send us feedback. Let us know if you what you felt or about hearing what we said. We'd love to hear from you.
So, all good. Diner, thank you. We'll see you all on Friday.
Yes. So don't forget Uplink Convention, February 20th and 21st. This week we have we have my show tonight, 10 p.m. right here on the same station. We're talking board games. And then Thursday night is Watching Paint Drive with Doug at 7:30. So tonight for me, 10 p.m. and tomorrow night, 7:30 with Doug. And then Friday, Friday morning over coffee, 6:30. And we'll see you then.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, then everybody have a great day and a great tomorrow, and good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning.
Getting there.